Welcome everybody, welcome. It's Jarv here from Ready with Mirage and I appreciate you joining me today. I hope you're all doing well. So today, the tutorial and flip through that I'm going to be showing you is we're going to be making our own flower press journal. So let's make a garden journal with a twist by putting the things from our garden or nature into our journals and creating a foliage and flower press journal. So it works just like a journal would, but there's things in it that of course are going to be different from a normal journal. And I'm going to be showing you how to make this from scratch. So I will have timestamps linked below so that you can navigate through this tutorial, but it is worth your while if you're jumping ahead to the actual tutorial. Do come back and just listen to the rest of it or watch whatever I'm sharing with you, only because it'll just inform you completely, because it is an instructional as well as a visual tutorial. The reason why I'm cutting the papers there, I just want to be reminded as to where I've placed the foliage and the plants that I've collected from my garden into the flower press, and in this way it will remind me to go back and either put a label on that page with a date or just on that sticky note that I've cut down. Just some ideas as to where to get plants. I'm sure you're all adventurous and I'm sure you'll find a way, but I'm just going to give you some suggestions. And I understand that many of you are in the Northern Hemisphere, so you're entering into almost your last month of autumn or fall and entering into winter in December. So I'm just going to give you some ideas that might prove helpful for those of you that are wondering what to do when the seasons don't make it possible to find plants or flowers. And just remember, if you're heading into autumn, autumn leaves are beautiful. Even if you're going to enter into winter, foliage, greenery and foliage like that is just so beautiful. So florists, check out any florist or even any supermarket and just mention to them that you would like to see any of the flowers that didn't make the cut, and if they would sell them to you at a discount cost. So at the end of a florist's day, that might be worth your while to pop in and ask them. Ask your neighbors, ask your friends, ask your family if they've got anything that in the garden that you can utilize, and experiment with everything. But greenery is beautiful to press, and of course autumn leaves, or any leaf, whether it's autumn or not, and wildflowers and flowers that just are like little daisies. They just press so beautifully. Please stick around to the end of this video. You'll be seeing a preview of part 2 of how to take this flower press to the next level. Please enjoy. We are going to be bringing the garden into our journals, and let's just have a look at it. So basically the mechanism is using elastic, but it doesn't have to be elastic. Now this and this here is optional, so I'll just take that out. They're just optional because they're not really essential unless you want some extra protection. But basically this is what the whole mechanism looks like. You don't have to have the elastic joined to this journal. You can actually pull these out because they're removable, and this is also removable. You don't even have to have elastic. With Velcro you can use any binding system that you like, whether it's twine fabric that you tie off or so forth. But for me, I like this construction because it really, really compresses the whole thing. So all you're going to need is some good glue, a craft glue like this, which is acetone based, or because this is like a Fabri-Tac, it's a fabric glue. Another one that I like to use is this one here, Helmer's or Helmer. This is a great PVA glue if that's all you've got. It's extra strength, and I really enjoy using the blue stick Boss stick. All you need is some grey board, and a lot of grey board is used for sketch pads or tracing paper pads. Anything that you utilize, whether it be cardboard from packaging, yeah, anything like that can be used. You just need to cut it down to size. This is good quality watercolor paper. I've inked it up. You don't have to use that. You can use craft stock or cardstock to fold up to make this whole mechanism work, this construction. Now you can paint these if you want to, or you can use decorative paper to cover it up. Now that would need to be trimmed there, but yeah, you just glue it just to give it a nice look. But you can paint it, but I would definitely seal it if I was going to paint it. And this is quite sturdy, so I can't remember how much this was. 300 GSM for the watercolor paper, and the cardstock 200 GSM, and of course this is a lot thicker, the grey board. Any cardboard will do, but make sure it's not really thick, otherwise it's just going to take up space really quickly. It's really not necessary to have anything really super thick. If you think about the books that you press your flowers in, basically you're pressing them between paper, just thin paper. What's going to support them to be closed is the covers of that book and anything that you put on top. So these will act as the pressure plates to keep everything flat in its drying process. It's 1.5 to 2 mil. The reason why I've done it with the cardboard is you want something heavy in between. So imagine you've just gone to the garden, or your friend gave you some flowers and now you want to press them. Well, you're going to get a piece of paper, you're going to grab it, and you can either put it here if you want to, or in here. So that's what that's for. Now you don't need to use this. You could use a paper towel in here on both sides. You could use tissue paper, blotting paper, or watercolor. 180 GSM. And I guess you could use plain printer paper if you wanted to, just experiment. So here we go. In here we have another set of watercolor papers. So these watercolor papers are inexpensive. I got them from Kmart, and you can see I've already got some stuff in there. So these are the ones that are going to carry your flowers that you press, and basically you can just layer them in here because the fabric allows for a lot of flexibility in your spine. Okay, so we're going to just start taking these out. These carrier sheets will be reusable, especially if they're watercolor paper. They will last a long time, and you can use them again and again for each of your flower pressing or foliage pressing sessions. The papers that I'm using are from my medieval garden. I'll have those kits linked below, and I think these ones here might be from the medieval one of mine, and this one could be Medieval Odyssey. So this is the grey board, or cardboard, whatever you like. I think this is from my Fresco Fragments kit. So now it's quite free of everything. So I'm going to start putting everything back in. And you could have a label here to remind you of what you've placed in here, and you can what's the word, date it and so forth. So look, I'm putting 2 in here. You can put as many as you want until you reach the capacity where you can't fit any more in. So I'm just doing almost like 2 to a page. We'll just do 1 there. Here's a fern. Anyway, I've run out of the papers, but yeah. If these get in your way, you can pull them out and put them in at will. You can put your flowers straight in there if you don't mind them leaving a little bit of their color behind, but that's again where you can put tissue paper on either side when you're pressing, so it keeps this nice and clean, but it's totally what suits your needs. So it's not meant to be a beautiful journal, this one, but you can make it pretty if you want to ink around the edges. You might even want to stencil on this part of it. It's totally up to you, but I just want to have a nice sort of floral theme for myself with the plain pages in between, because it's just going to be a practical thing. It's not for decoration necessarily. We're using a no-sew binding. Fabric is the best hinging method because it's strong, durable and flexible. It's perfect for this tutorial. Okay, so I've got some calico. I folded in half and ironed it flat, and basically they are quite long, so they don't need to be that long, so I may end up cutting them down. So this is 40 mil wide, and the length of it just needs to be this tall or a little bit over. You might want to have a little bit of overhang, or you can have a lot of overhang. It's totally up to you. So mine is basically an A5, and it's 210 mil. So you may need to convert that in Google for inches and so forth. And right, so it's 210 the length, and when it's folded in half, it's roughly 20. So some of them might be a little bit wider. No, they're all pretty much the same. So that might be a little bit wider, but that's okay. It doesn't really matter because this is what I'm going to be using to create the flower press. It's going to be the binding system, and I'm using fabric because it's got more give. It's less stiff than paper or cardboard. Now if you haven't got fabric, it doesn't matter. Just make sure you have really good craft paper, craft stock, or you could use Tyvek. So this Tyvek has been coffee stained, but you can use Tyvek. Now Tyvek is amazing. It is so strong, and you could easily basically, I mean, it's the perfect height if you've got A4 sheets of it. And you just cut the measurements. So the paper that I used to print on here was not photo paper. This is digital paper. I know it says copy paper, but it is digital paper. There we go. Digital color laser printer, but you can use it with inkjet printers. Now what it is, like 120 or 160 GSM is really good. It is stronger, more durable, with a nice finish than plain printer paper. This has been laminated. This was done quite a few years ago, and this has been laminated as well. In here I've created a pocket with these cute little scissors and a little shield that I made for it, and these are labels so that I can go outside, cut my flowers, and instantly have them organized, and that would be attached to this elastic. So it's just a hat elastic, Okay, just a hat elastic that I've tied off, and basically this goes like this. And then here's the front, and it goes on this way. So this is optional. It doesn't have to be part of the mechanism. The only thing though with this one at the back, it will flop around if you go with this at the very, very back. So I'll just show you what I mean, because there's nothing holding it down, because all this, sorry, it gets all stuck there. I just wanted it to look nice for you. All of this is within these parameters. So that's the only thing. So if it becomes annoying, it's okay. It's not going to be a problem because you can detach it. So that would mean if you want to have some protection, say you're using fabric, some protection there, then you could seal it, spray seal it, or you could add some of this acetate, sew it on before you glue this down as a way of protecting this, because you might want to take something like this out on a nature walk and have it in your backpack, or in your own garden. You want to just spend a bit of time collecting your flowers and putting them in. So it's just a way of keeping it protected, but it's optional. Okay, now this beautiful fabric here, so I'm going to just take that off for now. Okay, so this here is the beautiful fabric from Rachel at Roxy's Creation. So I'll have that linked below. Hi Rach, it's so pretty. I love it. Just love it. Okay, and we'll take this off as well. And I'm just going to tuck these guys out of the way, and we're just going to have a look at the mechanism. All right, so this is how it's looking. Now this doesn't have to be here either. These can be on the outside. You don't have to have both of them at all. You can have just the one that suits your needs. So I wanted it to be a fully pressed one, but you don't have to, and you do not have to have it attached to this. These can be removed. Okay, so that's the great thing. And then you can guide it back in with, I don't know, a dowel, a thin dowel, or like chopsticks to get it to go through if you need them to. You can also use a knitting needle as well. So those of you that knit, this is a perfect solution. So for those of you that do not want this to be in the way, it really is no problem. What you could do if you want to be using this is you could just put another book on top. Maybe a nice old book that you can't part with that can sit on top of this so that it helps pressure them down. But honestly, really, I think you should test it out and see how you go. You should be all right just as is. All right, so say these have been in your way but you want to use them. Well, decide which one you want to use. If it's just going to be one, which one do you feel is going to be best in your situation? So you may just want this on its own, and that's absolutely fine as well. Whether you're going to have it looped through the tunnel system that we've made, or that you have it on the outside, you can do that too. All right, so you don't have to have the whole setup. Okay, so that could be one way. You don't have to thread it through when it's in use. So you could still absolutely do it this way. if you wanted to. So there's no just one way. All right, so you can have it on the outside. It does not have to be constrained to the way that I've originally created it for. Now, for those of you that are going to be doing both or whatever feels right at the time, but then you want to get these back into the tunnel system we've created, then all it is just remembering which way you like it. Then all you have to do is just remember which way it's going to go in, and there should be the ability to thread it through, and you're just going to need something long like a chopstick or something like that, or anything that you've got, any dowel that's thin enough just to go in without causing any issues. So that's how you get that one in. And with this one, I've got a feeling that I like mine this way. So that means because I've got this here, I can't thread it through this way, but I can thread it through this way. Okay, and it sort of stops a little bit, but there you go. That's how quick and easy it is with a chopstick or something resembling a chopstick. And I usually like to have it this way. It's not my best sewing. All right, so there it is. So feel free to attach this however you like. We can bind it any which way we like. So there's no hard and fast rule. You could even just basically get some of these bulldog clips and you're going to grab a section. So where's the sections? We've got that there, and there. And you might just put these there. It might have to be a large one, so you can have that like that, and then maybe another 2 on either side. And that's why we have something hard and firm, but not too thick in between. There we have our flower press journal. So I hope this inspires you, and if it does, please continue watching the rest of this tutorial as I will be showing you how to make this contraption for all your beautiful pressed flowers. Not just flowers, but foliage as well. It's basically doing the binding method with some fabric. Okay, and I don't mind some of it being seen over the top. So now I know the height of it. I think they're all the same height. All right. This was quite a big tutorial for me to film, so I did it in different stages on different days. So the fabric that I'm using, I've got a feeling it was a tablecloth, a white tablecloth, 100% cotton that I got from Kmart, but it was like $10 for, you know, a large table. So I use that a lot, and because I don't have a small craft iron, I do have a normal iron. I just didn't feel like bringing it out and setting everything up. So one of the things that I always do is use my hair straightener. So it's not just for my hair, my curly frizzy hair. it's really great as using it as a tool in my crafting projects. So it's very interchangeable, I can tell you that. Also too, when you're folding your papers down, you'll find that this gives it a nice finish as well, especially cardstock that is a bit hard to fold in half. So the watercolor paper here that I'm using is 300 GSM, but like I've said earlier, you don't have to have watercolor paper for the construction, but I would recommend the watercolor paper as a carrier sheet for your plants, your flowers, or your leaves, your foliage, because they will release moisture. So here you'll just see how it really works. I'm just showing you just briefly how it all comes together. The other thing is, if you don't have time to coffee stain your fabrics, then just grab an ink pad with your choice. I usually have Vintage Photo or Coffee by Ranger or Potting Soil. They always look really great with that vintage look. So this is just such a quick way of getting that aged old look of fabric. It is a hack. It's a shortcut of mine. So now we're getting ready to attach everything together, and this is the glue that I'm using. It's like a fabric glue, and the trick is with this to really do your best to spread it out really well. But I did find that you could still see the glue coming through, but it didn't worry me too much because the decorative paper was going to go over it anyway. So yeah, and because fabric isn't as porous, I have put some paper towel, not paper towel, wax paper, to stop it from sticking to the previous page. But it's really so easy, and it for those that just don't like sewing, it's just a great way of doing this. But what I like about it, it allows for a spine to grow, and you're not going to get the alligator mouth with this method. And the other great thing is the journal can keep on growing. You can keep adding as many of these signatures, the folded watercolor paper or cardstock, and then the cardboard or grey board or book board, whatever you're using. You can keep adding to this. It doesn't have to stop at all. So if you're finding that when you make yours you don't have enough room for your flowers that you're pressing or your foliage, well, it doesn't matter. Just keep adding to it. And that's why there's no cover that's been made for this particular tutorial. The back and the front just needs to be a cardboard or a grey board, and you're fine from here on in, because it just adds to the firmness of the journal. You will be noticing that I'm using the blue stick, and sometimes it's interchangeable. Like sometimes I'll just use the craft glue, which is acetone based, all over, and other times I'm happy to use the blue stick by Bosch Stick. Now the reason why I do it, I really love that glue because it doesn't warp as much as the other stick glues that I've used. But when you use it in conjunction with the, as I'm doing here, and you can put the blue stick first, or you can put the acetone craft glue around the edges first. It doesn't really matter. I sometimes just go around it twice. The reason why I do that, and I've done it for a while now, is I've noticed that it doesn't warp the papers, because that's one of the problems with a water-based glue. You're going to have a bit of warping, wrinkling, but not with the way that I do it. Combining the Bosch stick, the blue stick, with the acetone around the corners, which you need them to be able to make sure everything is glued down. And but it's just one of my methods that I use, and I've always had good success that way. It's just a double way of checking that everything is going to last the distance when it comes to glues. But this is just optional using decorative paper, but I think it adds a nice character to it. And so basically it makes it so easy. If you can iron it and give yourself a crease, you're going to put your glue down here. You're going to lay that down, because remember, you've got this. You may want to put, if you're using fabric, you may want to put something to be a barrier from, so not everything gets glued together. And you're going to glue along there, and that gets put on the top. And you're just going to keep on going. You're going to put your glue down, going to lay that on top, press it down, glue, and then this goes on top. And you're just going to keep it going. Glue, this goes here, we glue that down, glue, and then we get that. And you're just going to keep on going until you don't need it anymore. And then again. Alright. Alright. So, and yeah, just keep on repeating until you've come to the end. And then, if you want to do what I'm doing, to decorate the pages, all I'm doing is folding an A4 page in half, because this is roughly an A5 board. Paper is A4, folded in half, it's A5. And then I'm just decorating them. So I'm using a floral animal theme, you know, a nature theme, I should say, and so forth. And I just feel that that's so fitting, you know, you're collecting your dried flowers and away you go. Going back to the foliage situation that I was sharing with you just before. So normally I will let them sit a little bit before I put anything into the flower press journal, giving them time to air a little bit. But even then, you'll find that they'll still hold moisture, and that's why the watercolor paper sort of absorbs that. And also, if you are more concerned, you could double up the inexpensive watercolor paper, or you could have tissue paper in there as well, blotting paper, or paper towels, or old book pages that you don't mind. So it's just about recognizing the science of how plants work. So I may not have mentioned it before, but this is an A5 journal flower press. So in other words, here in Australia, we use A4 paper, which is what I just showed you, and then you just fold it in half. That's all. So it would be a full US letter page, and you just fold it in half, and then you cut everything to fit that size. You might need to trim. I wasn't too exact with mine. I know sometimes the paper was a bit overlapping the board, the cardboard, but yeah, it's just A5. Now, what I'm showing you now is how I finished off the back of the flower press journal. So you want to have a hard cover at the very back and at the very front of your journal, because that just keeps it nice and firm. So I'm not using the Bosch stick now. I'm using the acetone because that's a really good glue, and it doesn't warp again, and yeah, I put tons of it on there. It was just a bit hard getting it out. That this is the back, or the last part of the or the back of the journal. See that I'm using an old cookbook that doesn't have any covers on it. I use that to glue things down onto. It allows for me to use it as a support so that I can use it to flatten and smooth out the glue. Otherwise it's quite lopsided and a bit tricky. So if you're finding that yourself, you just need something to prop up underneath the board or the paper that you're trying to smooth down. I hope that makes sense. This is the back of the flower press journal, and the cardboard or the grey board that you saw, I have sandwiched it in between those folded watercolor paper, and in this way I've attached it to the fabric, as you would have seen me doing that in the tutorial. So these are the papers that I'm using from my medieval garden, and that will be linked below. This does not need to be printed, and if you want to, you can ink around the edges if you wish. I'm going to show you another way that you can decorate the cardboard or your grey board, or whatever boards you use. The grey boards that I've been showing you, I got from all my sketch pads and notepads. They're fantastic. Okay, so the other way that you can decorate those cardboard is this way. So I've shown you one way previously. This is another way. So you just get all the glue down, spread it through the entire decorative page that you're going to be using, and I do go over the top. I've always been that way with glue. It's allowing me to make sure that I get everything glued, every part of the page glued. So I've given you two ways because I made two flower press journals, and that's why there's a bit of interchange between the two. But anyway, the point of this is that you don't have to do it one way. There's other ways around it. And I'm just showing you my smoothing tool that is used for icing, and this is just a wedge tool that you can pick up from a hardware shop as well. If you don't have that, cookie cutters are helpful as well to smooth things down, or you can get, again, something from a notepad or notebook. It's nice and firm. You can use that as a smoothing tool as well. You want it to be large enough so that you can get a really nice smooth finish. And I've just made a makeshift book press between two books, and on top of it I've put a cutting board. The book press, the makeshift book press, is only optional. It's one way of making sure the cardboard or the grey board that you're using and you're decorating is lying flat so that it doesn't warp, and you'll have some really beautiful finished cardboard that way. So where it's folded, I want that to be on the outside because it's got more protection. So that's how it's going to be glued. All right, so that's that part there. Here I am just setting myself up, and that's what I would recommend before you start gluing anything down. Just go through this process of laying everything in order that you want them to be. So whatever you like, you want to be at the top, whatever you'd like at the back of it, and in between. This is just the way that I like to kind of set myself up so that I'm not fluffing around when I'm actually committing myself to gluing everything down. So I just wanted to show you again a bit of a tip. Some of the fabric will be more porous than others, and so with this one I decided to cut up a magazine, which you've already seen, and well, it's not a magazine, it's from a book, but it's got that glossy magazine feel to it, and I found that it didn't sort of attach itself to the actual journal afterwards, but it was a form of protection. So that's just one way. You can either cut up your baking paper or wax paper or anything that you feel can act as a barrier so that you aren't going to be gluing the whole thing down at the spine, because you want this spine, or the signatures I should say, to open. And that's what I'm doing here. I found that really worked well, and I just waited till they were dry and the fabric was dry to pull them out. So here ends the construction of the actual flower press, signatures I guess you could call them. And now we are going to be diving into how to make the tunnels, I guess you could call it, the fabric tunnels, where we can insert the elastic bands, or whether you want to put ribbon or lace or twine. It's optional, it doesn't have to be done, but that's what we're going to be doing now. And we're jumping in straight away, and I was just talking a little bit about how I originally intended to make it, but came up with a better idea. Those pages, but I've gone a little bit differently. I wanted to have like the ability to thread the elastic through, and that's why I've made that as an extra option. And what we are going to do now is we are now going to, so that's how it's looking, we are now going to attach this way. So we've got this going this way, Right, so this is going to act as the wraparound. Okay, that way. And I'm going to be using Velcro, but you can use a safety pin to keep this together. You can use binding clips, you know, those bulldog clips to keep it together. I'm sure you'll come up with really great ideas. Hopefully in my tutorial I've shown you how to add this fabric. This was my first idea, was to be able to thread the elastic through. I decided rather than having long hinges at the very back, I would just do just 2 hinges that were separate. And in this way, it would allow for me to thread the elastic through in between these 2 tab hinges. So that's what you could see previously. And I'm just going to add it here just in case you would rather do a hinge binding this way. It really, the possibilities are endless when it comes to fabric and deciding on how to hinge things together. And then again, you can decorate those pages with those tab hinges as another way of finishing the journal press. So you're seeing the end of the journal press or the back of the journal press. So paper can be used rather than fabric, but I'd still be able to thread the elastic through between those 2 tabs. And then I decided, oh look, I'm going to add this piece. So that's what you've already seen in the previous part of this tutorial, and now you're just going to see me put it together, and I hope it all makes sense. And then you're going to do it in the opposite direction. You're just going to put glue here and here. So that's what I'm going to do now. Now you're most welcome to iron your calico. I'm using calico at the moment, but you can use any fabrics that you like. It can be patterned fabric, it can be cotton, cotton mix, polyester, linen, whatever fabric you have. It's all about utilizing what you have in your home and whatever makes you happy. So it is a bit of a messy one in the sense that I don't want it to be tidy and professional. I want it to be organic because I'm putting organic things in there, and I want it to be homemade and kind of homespun and really just give it that really natural rustic feel. Yeah, eventually I will just trim these back as well. Just at the moment, I'm quite happy for them to be as is. So this is your free floating flower press. This part is important. We need to now fill up this journal flower press with the carrier sheets that we're choosing. So if you are going to be using inexpensive watercolor paper, you need to factor this in, especially if you're going to use the elastic to be the way that you're going to compress this whole journal together. So if you're not going to be using the elastic, then it's not really necessary. However, if you're going to be using another type of binding, you probably will need it, because you'll need to know how much you're going to cut to fit to size. So you've been watching me wrestle with the elastic. I'm using the pins to help me work out how far I want the elastic to go and how tight I want it to become. So it's one of those things that you're just going to have to play around with, work around what's best in your situation. Okay, everybody, so I'm going to go and sew this down. I'm just going to pull this apart. I'm sorry I can't show you my the sewing process, but yeah, I'm just not set up at the moment to show you, but I'll be back. Okay, so I've just sewn it, and I might have to go in there again. I like to go around it twice, and so now I just need to once again just sort of position things and just see how they look. And which way are we going? Okay, so I'm going to go this way. All right, so now this, I have to make sure I position this in the right way. So I want them to be making contact, but I still want that tension, right? So you want to be able to pull it up and create the tension. You don't want it like overly tight, but you don't want it overly loose either. So I'm going to now, whoops, just kind of give myself an idea of where I need to sew now. And remember, we are now sewing from this side, because that's going to be like that. Okay, so I know now my positioning, and away I go. All right, so there we have it. Now I'm going to try and thread these back through. It's not really necessary, but let's first of all just test this out. But anyway, let's have a look. Okay, that's pretty good. All right, so there we have the first one, and basically I'll be doing exactly the same with this one, but this isn't going to be as long as this. Okay, so all I'm going to do just quickly is show you how I like to tidy up my threads. So we'll have this all nice. And that is, I'm going to just grab my needle, and I hope this doesn't go out of focus, and I apologize if it does. And okay, sometimes you need to snip your ends off, and basically I just thread it back in. And this is a bit tricky because it's quite a lot of fabric to go through, and if you're struggling, you can always get some pliers to pull it through. So there we go. You might want to have one of those little thumb protectors, thumb shields. What do we call them? Thimbles or something like that. And this is a bit of a mess here, so let me just grab that and have a look. Sometimes it can't be helped. Okay, because it's just a bit of a sewing issue there. All right, and then we grab this. And the longer they are, the better. Okay, let's just grab that. So I'm just now threading my needle, and just going to go in that corner there. And sometimes I might just do a little bit of hand sewing or hand stitching, just to reinforce where I might have missed in the sewing machine. Okay, that seems to have nicely finished that off. All right, so then I come over onto the other side, and then I just find the corresponding threads, and then I just tie them off. So here's some corresponding threads here, and I think I might be able to pull one more here. Okay, so those are the two corresponding ones there, and it looks like I've got just two here, and you're just going to basically tie them off, and that's it. Okay, so, and that just strengthens everything, because look, loose threads are fine, I don't mind them, but you do need to at least tie some of them off if you can, because it means that they won't unravel and unthread, and yeah, because once something unravels, it's like hard to sort of rein it back in. All right, so that's that, and all you need to do is just do some snipping, and you've got something really nice. Let's just do one more. And there you go, and there you've got the safety that this isn't going to come apart. All right, so that's how you make a nice tidy finish, and I'm going to do the rest. This was a bit more of a mess, as you can see, but yeah, try and get as close to the edge as possible and just do a couple of rounds. And sometimes you might need this a little bit longer, so this is why I've cut that a little bit longer as well, because it'll just depend how much you've got in here, because you can fit so much. Why? Because it's expandable, right? See that? This is the same, the spine is the same as this. That's why the fabric is your ultimate go-to hinge for these kind of journals. If you take everything out and there's nothing in there, it'll flatten it. So you still want to be able to, you know, have a closure, a proper closure. So yeah, that's going to be perfect, really perfect. So now that I know that that's perfect, and this is why you need to really sew this down very well, because you can see the incredible grip strength of Velcro. Velcro is an amazing thing. So this is the top, and now we're going to thread it through. You can use anything. You can use a ruler to push it along, just like this. There it is. Yeah, whatever you've got on hand. I use chopsticks for these kind of things, okay? Chopsticks. You've got plenty of wriggle room between the hems, and yeah, so we've done this side. All right, so let's just do that now, and of course I'm going to finish off the threads, but you know how to do them now. And of course the next one is this way. So obviously we would need to probably loosen this to put it through, so let's just do that now. Okay, so this should be a lot easier to thread through. Yep, there it is. Okay, so see, sometimes it does pull away, but don't panic. Just get your good fabric glues or your PVA glues and just glue it down. I don't know if I mentioned it, but the elastic was actually white, and I coffee stained it to get that aged look, that cream color, which I absolutely love. I love that aged vintage look. So that's like that, and then of course you're going to put your pins in, and then away you go with the Velcro. It's a matter of working out which way to go. So if I go this way, I think I'm happy with that way, or do I want to go that way? I mean, what's natural for me? So if I go this way and then this way. So it's not meant to be pretty, by the way. Okay, it's not meant to be a stunning beauty. It's a practical tool for pressing flowers. I'll be starting my sewing stitches right here. Oops, I just yeah. All right, so I know, just going to remind myself that this is the right side up, that way, and if that's going that way, then this will be on that side there. All right, so I'm going to go and do some more sewing. All right, so just one more test. So there we have that done, and this is going to go like this. Okay, so let's just get, because I like to have this underneath. All right, so that goes there, and this is going to go this way. It is such a great grip that it's already gripping onto here. It's almost like I don't need it there. Okay, so it's just sticking there. It's marvelous. It's just so marvelous. Okay, so basically I'm going to be needing mine to end here. In fact, I may even need to go a bit further along. It's not my favorite thing to do, working with elastic and Velcro, but you know, I've done it in the past quite a bit, but you forget after a while. You go, oh yeah, that's right, I forgot about that. So that's that far up. So anyway, if anything goes wrong, it doesn't matter, because I can just unpick it. Quick unpick. Okay, so that's where my finish line's going to be. That's where I'm going to sew it. But remember though, when you do that, to make sure it's not upside down. Okay, so you've just got to remember, because when you open this up, one is facing upwards. Just always remember, one has to face upward and the other one the other way. Okay, like this. So here I am. Let's hope this works. So these two opposites are now going to attract. Perfection plus. There we have it. Now, have you noticed that this is quite light next to this? So I've coffee tea stained the this elastic because it was really glaringly white. So if you're finding that some of it is a little bit too light for you, no problemo. Just grab your archival inks. You might not have the time to coffee tea stain. It doesn't matter. Just get the archival inks in. This needs re-inking. I'm doing this because this is so dry. I need to clean it up as well. All right, let's just thread it through. So please don't mind my strings. Perfection. You don't have to have this on there. Let's just pull that away so that you can see that you don't need to have the laminated stuff front and back. So what you could do with this is, okay, so to make it look pretty, there we go. Let's put some Rachel fabric on here, Beautiful Rachel's fabric. I love that. Thanks, Rach. All right, so that is a perfect way of dealing with this and finishing it off so it looks gorgeous. And I'm going to just use my glue stick. Yeah, I think I'll cut that off there. I think that looks fabulous. Thank you, Rach, for your beautiful fabrics. Okay, don't mind it overhanging a little bit. And it's just going to go there. Now, what you could do to make it really fancy, you could sew around that, but I'm not going to. I'm going to get my glue. Okay. So I've got two types of glues that work well together. Give this a brush. I just want to smooth the glue out because it's quite thick. I know I should have really put all of the glue there. And the reason why I like to spread out the glue is then it becomes a bit more invisible. You can't actually see the glue. And see, these can still move around. They're not going to be blocked off, and this is the same. Now, if you do want to have something that you feel is fancy on there, so you could absolutely sew that on. You could put a fake flower on here, sew it on, but just remember, you want this to be functional. You don't want things to get in and out of the way. But this, I think, could work. That's a little filigree leaf, and I think it's very, very fitting. So I have only attached this to here. So for now, I'll just have it attached there. It's not getting in my way because I can still pull this on and off, and it's not going to compromise anything. It just looks really lovely. Just attached there, and I think that is absolutely fine. Now I'm happy for it just to sit there. All I need to do now is just spend a bit of time threading through my laces. Hey everybody, I just wanted to jump in quickly just to show you something. So what I've done is, it was something I just overlooked, just to tidying up, because elastic will eventually start fraying and fraying and fraying. So what I did was, I'll just show you. So I didn't do it here, but I will. I just ran out of time. But all it is I've just folded this over and then sewed down there with the sewing machine. Now, if you've got really strong fingers and you're into slow stitching, you could tack it into place with an invisible stitch to tidy that up. but I think it's just a nice way of finishing everything off. So yes, the back of it looks a bit crazy. My sewing machine was not happy going through the layers of this thick elastic, but it certainly is worthwhile doing it because I think it just tidies everything up. So that is something to keep in mind. Okay, so that's how it looks. It's really finished everything off. Anyway, everybody, that's how it is looking. I'm really thrilled with the way this has been finished off, and I wanted to just pop in and show you. And yes, sometimes it will kind of fold up your longer pieces. Just make sure everything's tucked in. And for those of you that want to take this a step further, well, this is the one for you. But for those of you that want to take it to the next level, then this is the journal for you. And I will be teaching you how to make this from scratch in my next upcoming tutorial. So I hope you will join me for that. So please subscribe and put your notification bells on. If you have those notification bells on, then you will be alerted to when this tutorial will become available. Please join me for that upcoming tutorial because it's going to be part 2 and I cannot wait to share it with you. So I hope you will join me for that part 2. It'll be available soon. So this is how you can make your own flower press journal. For those of you that do not want any fuss, but just want something easy and quick, and don't mind the spine being exposed, then you're set. Again, for those who want to take it to the next level, part 2 coming soon. Rachel's beautiful fabric there. I'm also going to list Wynette's beautiful fabric as well. So there we have it, everybody. I hope this is now going to inspire you to make your own flower press journal. Anyway, everybody, I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for your wonderful support. If you're new here, a very warm welcome. To all my beautiful subscribers, I appreciate you. Your support means so much. Please share this link with others, everybody, so that they can join in and learn how to make their own flower press fabric hinge journal. And just remember, when you do press the subscribe button, make sure you press the bell as well. They will give you a bell icon. In this way, you'll be notified as to when my next tutorial is coming up. And if you do that, then you're not going to miss out on this part of this journal, because I'm going to show you how to structure the construction of this. I will also show you how to make a beautiful journal topper using your beautiful flower pressed items. All right, everyone, thank you so much. Please take care of your lovely selves, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.